صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما غلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى. ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب فإذا فرغت فانصب فإذا فرغت فانصب فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأجل فرجه. أحسنتم. غفر الله لنا ولكم. Inshallah, without further ado, I would like to welcome our respected Shaykh to the member with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajal. Ya Allah.
For the souls of our ulama, orafa, shuhada, all those who sacrificed their lives for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially those that were martyred, saving the shrines in Iraq and Syria, those martyred while resisting oppression, marhumin of the people who have been working behind the scenes to make these gatherings possible, and inshallah the marhumin of the participants here. Please recite a salawat and a fatiha. صل على محمد وآله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين، أبي القاسم مصطفى محمد، وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين، سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. First and foremost, we extend our condolences to the Imam of our time, of these days, the martyrdom anniversary of the best of creations, the beloved Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his eldest grandson, Sitt Akbar Hasan Al-Mujtaba, and according to some reports, his great-grandson, the Samin al-Hujad Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi alafu at-tahiyyati was-salam. Inshallah, time comes when in the command of our Imam, we avenge every drop of blood spilled unjustly for the hastening of his reappearance. Please say Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Every Shahada or Wilada program we have, every martyrdom or birth anniversaries we celebrate or commemorate, it's an opportunity to reflect and learn from the lives of these infallibles, right? To know who they were, how they lived, what things they valued in life, what their priorities were, what decisions they made, and then remodel our lives based on that. Right? As the Quran also orders us to do, like saying that لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Right? You have an exemplar, a perfect role model in the personality of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Now, when we talk about knowing these infallibles, knowing the Prophet, knowing the Imams, there can be two approaches. Right? One is to talk about the biographical details, their names, their titles, their date of birth, for example, their date of martyrdom, on all these personal details. And one might think that, especially the names and the titles, are of limited benefit, right? They only act as a reference point and just to, be at common ground on what we are talking about or who we are talking about. But they have limited benefit in terms of their replicability or their application to our lives. This statement or this thought, this idea, is true in one sense, but it mostly applies to people like me and you. Why? Because our names are mostly arbitrary, right? It's just the way our parents named us, and they are not very much connected to who we are. Right? But that isn't the case with the prophets and the imams. Right? We have in the hadith that so and so infallible was named this because of this so and so reason. Right? So when we talk about the names and titles of infallibles, they can be a way of knowing them by asking this question, okay, why this person had this name, or why this person had this specific title. Now I'll give you an example. I'll quote a hadith on this. And since it's we're commemorating the Holy Prophet, there was this person who comes to our eighth Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa rada alayhi alafu tahiyyati wassalam. And he asks him, why was the Prophet called Abul Qasim? Right? Why had he had this title of Abul Qasim? Abul Qasim means what? Father of Qasim, right? And Imam, upon hearing this question, says, well, Abul Qasim means father of Qasim. He had a son named Qasim. That's why he was named Abul Qasim. Very straightforward. Right? Now this person, the person who had asked the question, he was a man of understanding. He knew if you want to achieve more, if you want to gain more, he has to show the thirst, right? So he says, and he asks the Imam, if you consider me, if you consider that I'm eligible to know more, please, give me more insight on this, because there are more levels to this. And it is this when the Imam expounds and elaborates more on why the Prophet was called Abul Qasim. Imam says, do you not know that? Have you not heard the Prophet's hadith about him saying that Ana wa Ali abawa hadhihi al-ummah, that me and Ali are the fathers of this ummah? And this person says, yes, I have heard that. The Imam continues. So if you have heard that, and the Prophet is the father of the whole of Ummah, the best of the Ummah is who? Imam Ali alayhi salam, right? This person says, yes, that's true. But again, it's still not clear for him how does that make him Abul Qasim. So Imam further explains. He says, do you not know that one of the titles Imam Ali has is what? Qasim al-Nar wal-Jannah. Right? It's Amir al-Mu'mineen, who's titled as someone who will divide people between hell and heaven, right? It's he whose wilaya is the criterion on which if someone has the wilaya, goes to heaven, goes to paradise, goes to Jannah, otherwise he ends up in hell. So Imam Ali has this title of Qasimun Nar wal Jannah. The Prophet is the father of the Ummah. Imam Ali is one of the best of the Ummah, one of the Ummah. So that's why the Prophet is named Abul Qasim. Right? So Imam Ali is Qasimun Nar wal Jannah. Rasulullah is the father of the Ummah. And he's also someone who raised Imam Ali, who raised this Qasimun Nar wal Jannah. So he's named Abul Qasim. Now what does this have for me? There's this famous Persian poet who, with this idea in mind that if I love the Prophet, if I love the Imams, I will get their shafa'ah. Inshallah, all of us do. But he has this idea, and then he has this two verses. He says in Persian, he says, Hajib agar maamile hashr ba alist, right? If on the day of gathering, the reckoning rests with Ali, the Hisab Kitab rests with Ali, if it's Ali who will be dividing heaven and hell, man zamenam to harche bekhai guna kun, I am your guarantor, then sin as you will, right? I pledge your safety. Again, thinking that, okay, if I have the love, that's enough, I don't have to do any good deeds, and Imam Ali will save me. Right? Again, going back to that idea of him being the Qasimun Nar wal Jannah. He says these verses, he says these ash'ar, the night after he sleeps and he sees Amir al-Mu'mineen in his dream. Amir al-Mu'mineen asks him, Imam Ali asks him, what were the verses you were reciting during the day? And he repeats these two verses in front of him. And Imam Ali says, you need to correct them. How? He says the first line is good. Hajib agar muamile hashr ba, at least that's good, that if the day of judgment, the reckoning rests with Ali, the hisab rests with Ali, that's good. Change the second one. Okay, what do? Make it sharm az rukh Ali kun wa kamtar guna kun, right? If that day, the hisab kitab, the heaven and hell, is in hands of Amir al-Mu'mineen, think about how you will confront your Mawla. Right? Have shame before his gaze. You want to go with a book of sins in front of your Imam? Right? It's how you see things like that, and I know that I'm going to confront my Mawla in the day of judgment, it should inspire me to do good and confront him with a book that's full of good deeds. So that's the first approach, right? It's limited, but it has its benefits, right? It can be a link for us to gain ma'rifah about these infallibles. The second approach, which is popular and should be more talked about, and from the perspective of remodeling our lives based on their lives, is learning through their actions, through their interactions, right? So one duty of the Prophet was to bring the message. He brought the message. But another duty was to show people how things are done, right? How they can live a life that's valued by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Even in these actions and interactions, there are certain things that the Prophet did not only on an individual level, but he enforced them in the community. So remember, the Prophet has this new Islamic community in Medina. He's the head of that community, and using his position of influence, position of leadership, he enforces some things. He says that these things need to be there for a community to grow. These things need to be there for the community to achieve the objectives Islam has for a community. Now, Islam has objectives for individuals, Islam has objectives for a community. Right? We have ayah in the Quran saying, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. Hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not individually, but jamia, as a collectivity. Yeah? You have another ayah saying, تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Cooperate with each other on what? On doing good and having taqwa. Right? So there is this objective that Islam has for a community and wants people to be involved in a community and grow as a community. Now, when things are going in the right direction, there are some pitfalls, some dangers this community has to avoid. And this is what we are going to talk about today. Again, going back to what the Prophet did and enforced. So he enforced certain things for that community to keep growing. Right? So there was this, it had become a custom in Medina that people will come to the Prophet. So for example, see there are people coming inside, and they will see the Prophet sitting on one side. One of them will go and go to the Prophet and whisper in his ear. And what will he whisper? He will poison his ears with something bad about others. This has become a custom. Now think about this, right? There is this community, and it's quite common among the people there that they are constantly engaged in speaking ill about others. Now this ill about others can be of three forms, right? One is that you're sure that person did something evil, right? If you're sure and you go and tell the Prophet or anyone else, that's what? Backbiting. Sin in itself. Number two is that you're not sure if he did it or not. You just have a conjecture and you're falsely accusing him. Again, a sin. Number three, out of animosity, hatred for someone, you know that someone didn't do that evil, you still go and tell the Prophet or tell anyone else that he did this evil, he did this sin, for example. Right? That's slandering. Again, a sin. Right? So in whatever way you see it, you speak ill of someone, it's a sin, number one. Number two, it makes the environment that the community is in very unsafe. Right? People won't trust each other anymore. They would not like to cooperate with each other. They would not like to be in each other's presence and together try to achieve those objectives. And this is something the Prophet doesn't want. He wants these hearts to be together. He doesn't want these hearts to disperse. And so he comes out and calls out these people. He says that, La yuballighani ahadun minkum an ashabi shay'a. I do not want even a single of you coming to me and talking ill about my ashab. Why? فَإِنِّي أُحِبُّ أَنْ أَخْرُجَ إِلَيْكُمْ وَأَنَا صَلِيمُ الصَّدْرِ. I want to come out to you, work with you in a state that I am clean in my heart about you. I don't have anything in my heart against you. So not only he is stopping these people from to come to him and talk ill about others, but he's also stopping them from going to anybody else, right? Now, when we say that we shouldn't be speaking ill about others, what do we have to do? If we see someone doing an evil act, we have in the hadith to first have a good conjecture about him. How? We have in the hadith that if you see a brother of yours, a believing brother or believing sister, right? You see him or her doing something evil, doing a sin, make an excuse for him, right? For yourself, right? So that you're not even thinking ill about him. Even that he's tried to make at least 70 excuses for him. He did this because of so and so reason. He was maybe forced to do it, right? That's what we are asked to do, and give this benefit of doubt to others. Maybe there was something I didn't know, right? Now, of course, this has certain limits. We're not saying that we should be justifying everything, but there needs to be a balance that has to be kept. But I assume you're getting the idea of, at least give the benefit of doubt when you don't know the whole of reality. You don't know what the whole picture is. Now, on this note, there's a very interesting event that occurred in history in the Prophet's time. And it's detailed in Surah Nur, I think the 24th chapter of the Quran, and it starts from verses 11 onwards. And it's known as the Hadse Ifk, the event of Ifk. If means a lie. And the ayah goes like this: Inna alladhina ja'u bil ifki usbatum minkum. Truly those who brought forth this lie were no one else but a group amongst you. So it was you guys who brought this lie forward. It was you guys who spread this lie. It was you guys who spread the rumor, right? And then the next ayah says, it reprimands the Muslims. لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا وقالوا هذا إفك مبين. Why did you not do this? What? Why did you not say, when you heard this lie, why did you not say that this is a manifest lie? This can't be true. Okay, now what is this lie we're talking about? What was this rumor that was spread, and people, when they heard it, instead of saying that it's a lie and it can't be true, they fueled it even more? It's the event when the Prophet, with his companions, is coming back from a war, right? Now, this is a war where the families accompanied them, accompanied the companions. Some of the wives of the Prophet was also there. What happens is that one of the wives of the Prophet gets left behind, right? So she's there on one stop. The next stop, they don't see her, right? She goes missing. She goes missing. After some while they are still searching for her and looking where she's gone and where she's missing, they see her coming from far. But what they see is that she's not alone, right? She's coming with one other person. He's coming on a camel, and this camel, reins of this camel is in hands of a male person. Now think about this situation. A wife of the Prophet goes missing. She's seen after some while in the desert with a man. What happens? What are, quote unquote, normal reaction in this? Eyebrows raised. MashaAllah. Yeah. What's the first thought that comes to mind? So she's this wife of the Prophet, and it's not the wife, you might be guessing. But she's accused of indecency. Right? So this is what the Quran is talking about, reprimanding the believers. You heard this rumor was spread by someone, you should have said no. If I don't know the reality, if I don't know what happened, how can I have a bad conjecture about a believing woman and blame her to this extent of indecency? Right? So this is going back to the point that if you don't know the reality, and we are living as a community, to avoid the hearts dispersing, to keep being connected, we need to avoid this vice of bad conjectures, number one, and speaking ill of others. So that's our first point for today. And this is the first major we talked about, that the Prophet enforced using his position. Now, this is again a role model not only for us as an individual, but all of us who have this position of influence, be it our parents, like the parents who have influence over their children, be it the community leaders, be it like people in any tarbiyah circle. I heard there's a school also starting soon, inshallah. So wishing all the success to that school as well. But again, people in the administration, people in tarbiyah circles, it's a role model for all of them. If you want that environment to be safe for children, for adults, for Muslim believing brothers and sisters, you need to be careful that this vice doesn't creep in. Speaking of someone when you don't know the whole picture, you need to avoid that. So that's number one. Number two, something which is very closely linked to this, right, is what the Prophet did was he changed the air of indifference. Indifference meaning I'm not concerned about others. I'm living my own life. I mind my own business, so to speak, right? I don't care what's happening to others, what the affairs of other Muslims are. He changed this air into an air of love, cooperation, brotherhood, sisterhood, right? One of the first things he did after reaching Medina was this pact of brotherhood he made amongst the Muslims, right? What he did was he made these self-centered individuals into a cooperative community, right? Where we are concerned about other Muslims. We are aware of other Muslims. We're not indifferent. We work towards the well-being, the welfare of our Muslim brothers and sisters. When we say we have Muslim brothers, that's not just in words, right? We should feel a responsibility towards our Muslim brothers. Now, there's another event that had occurred in the life of the Prophet that I want to share on this very point. Is what happens is there's this Arab Bedouin who comes from the desert. Now, look, this is a person coming from abroad. It's not from the community. And of course, he has his own ways. He's different. He interacts differently. He's not aware of how things are done in the city, right? He's unaware of the customs of city life. He comes to Medina with his, again, that countryside roughness and toughness. He comes to Medina and he's in need of something. He asks the Prophet, and Prophet helped him. And the narration doesn't say what it was. It was something, maybe some money, maybe some clothes, maybe some food, whatever. He asked and Prophet helped him. After the Prophet helped him, Prophet asked this Bedouin, are you now satisfied? Right? Are you now content with what I gave you? Now, if someone helps you, at least on the face of it, even if you're not satisfied, you would say, yes, thank you so much. Yeah, you helped me, you did what you could. Now, this person is not like this. He's a Bedouin, he has this roughness and toughness, he's very blunt, right? He says it openly, no, you didn't help me the way you should have, or you didn't help me the way I was expecting it to be. He says it openly, right? Right at the feet of the Prophet. Now, again, we said that's not how it should be, how someone should react. But it might be the case that this person didn't intend disrespect. Maybe it's just the way he lives, right? Again, a lesson for us how to navigate differences. And again, that same first point that we said, give that benefit of doubt. Maybe he didn't intend disrespect and it's just the way he lives. And yes, I'm not saying that's the ideal, but he doesn't intend disrespect. But remember this, the Prophet was with his companions. And these companions, when they saw this interaction happen and this person responding in a way that's disrespectful according to them, they got angry. And they just wanted to grab this person by the collar. Right? Prophet indicated them to calm down, and then he told them, let me handle this. He took this person, he invited this person to his house. He went inside and got something more for him, right? Which shows that the Prophet didn't have anything else to give while he was with his companions. So he went home, got something more from him to make him satisfied. He got to home, got some things, gave it to him, and then asked him the question again. Are you satisfied now? This Bedouin replies, yes, I am. Thank you so much. Now the story doesn't end here. It actually starts here for the point I want to make. When this person replies, I'm satisfied now, the Prophet says, you know what? I want you to do me a favor. The other time you were with the companions, you said something, and my companions were angry about it, right? It must have led to a grudge for you in their hearts. And I don't want that. Right? I want you to now come with me. Let's go to those companions, and then you can again say that you're now satisfied and you're now thanking me. So the Bedouin said, yeah, sure, let's go. So one might ask why the Prophet did this, right? This person was a foreigner. He wasn't within the community. He might not come again. The companions might never see him again. And we might ask the Prophet, why was the need for this? Right? The Prophet might reply, first of all, my ummah doesn't have geographical boundaries. Whoever is a Muslim is part of the ummah. Right? And it was only the other day I was reading this hadith from Imam Murtaza alayhi salam, where it almost looked like he was talking to us people here in the West. And he says that if there's a person who's killed in the East, right? قُتِلَ بِالْمَشْرِقِ فَرَضِيَ بِقَتْلِهِ رَجُلٌ فِي الْمَغْرِبِ. And there's a person who's indifferent to this person being killed. لَكَانَ الرَّاضِي عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ شَرِيكَ الْقَاتِلِ. This person who was satisfied, who was content with what was happening or indifferent, this person actually part of that crime. He's the sharik, he's the partner in crime with the oppressors. So again, the ummah doesn't have boundaries. When we talk about our Muslim brothers, it doesn't mean the only community. Yes, on a practical level, on a daily, day-to-day level, yes, we should be working towards a community first and then the ummah, but that doesn't mean that we are completely unaware of what's happening outside. Getting back to that story, right? Now, the person comes in front of the companion and says, now I'm satisfied, I'm thankful to the Prophet who helped me. Now the Prophet explains to the companions why he stopped them before. He says, the example of me and this Arab Bedouin is an example of a shepherd and his camel, right? So think about this camel who has separated from the herd and is running away in the desert, right? You friends of mine tried to catch it, but what it will ultimately lead to is it will make it flee more, right? You will try to chase it, but it will flee more if you do that. What I did was I approached him with love and mercy and compassion to tame it and bring it back to the herd. I don't want even a single believer of mine to be away from each other, right? To go away, to turn his back towards me. This was the concern the Prophet had for us. He was the epitome of love and mercy, right? If you look at the Prophet, if you look at the Quran, how it introduced the Prophet, he says, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Indeed, there is a messenger who has come towards you. Talks about 3 qualities, right? Number 1, عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ. Right? Troubled is he by what you suffer. Your distress makes him aggrieved. He feels the pain. And again, this verse is eternal. It's not only for the people of Makkah. It's not only for the people of Medina. applies to us as well. So he felt the pain of the Muslims in Mecca. He felt the pain of the Muslims in Medina. He feels the pain of us believers as well. Next quality, harisun alaykum. He has deep concern for you, concern for your well-being, concern for your guidance, as we just saw. Quality number 3, bil mu'mineen ra'ufur rahim. He is the most kind and merciful to the believers. I want to quickly narrate another incident what happened, and this is reported by our 7th Imam, Imam Qadim alayhi salam. And every time I read this hadith, it has a lasting impact on me, and it's very beautiful, right? So what happens is, again, it's a story of another Bedouin, right? It's someone who's coming from the desert, has this nomadism life. He comes to Medina and calls out the Prophet in a very loud voice, almost shouting and disrespectful. Again, disrespectful according to the companions. He calls out the Prophet, Ya Muhammad, in a very loud voice. Now, what do we expect the Prophet's response to be? Right, if I were there in the presence of the Prophet, someone, shouts at me and calls out my name in a very loud voice, I might give him eye for an eye. Yeah, that's revenge. If he does something evil to me, I might take him to court and get him punished. That's justice. Or I can maybe remain silent and just ignore what he did. That's patience. It's none of these three that the Prophet did. He responded to this person in an even louder voice. You know why? We have the ayah in the Quran. It says, Surah, this is chapter 49, ayah number 2, that don't raise your voice higher than the raise of the Prophet. Right? So this person who called out the Prophet was a sinner according to this ayah. What the Prophet did, he didn't take revenge. He didn't get him punished. He didn't remain patient. What he did was, he erased the evil act of this person. So if someone does evil to you and you erase the evil, that's Muhammad Mustafa for you. Right? That much concern he had. Right? Sallallahu alayka ya Rasool Allah. Ya Abul Qasim ya Rasool Allah. Ya Imam Ar-Rahman. The Prophet gave his all, so be guided. It wasn't easy. He was called out names. He was called Akhtar. He was called a magician and whatnot. He was given physical torture, mental torture. People cut ties with him, was pelted with stones in Taif. Right? He's himself reported to have said, Ma udhiya nabiyyun mithla ma udhitu. There was not a single Nabi, there was not a single prophet who was given the aziyah I was given, who was given the trouble I was given. What I would say, Ya Rasulullah, I'm sure what you faced was difficult. What you endured was painful. But what your household faced after you gave you more pain. It gave you more sorrow and grief for the household face after you. Be it the streets of Medina, where your only daughter finds herself between the door and the wall. I want to especially talk about his eldest grandson, what they did to Imam al-Hasan. Someone who was not only martyred in Mazlumia, he was someone who lived a Mazlum life. How? Why I'm saying that? Think about it, yeah? This Imam, like the Prophet, had the deepest concern for us. His only concern was that we be guided. We get to the straight path. We attain salvation. But what did the people do with him? His best followers, his best commanders left him for Muawiyah. They left him alone in battlefield. That wasn't the only musibah he had. Yes, he didn't have followers outside, but even in his own home, he doesn't have support there as well. His own wife poisons him, right? His followers call him Ya Muzill al-Mu'mineen. Think about what would have gone through the heart of this Muslim Imam. His own followers, his own Shia call him that you are the person who's the source of zillah, who's the cause of zillah for us. The same Imam who gave his all so that we be guided. But what he hears in response is that you have made us disgraceful. Let our hearts go to Baqi. Even today, his grave stands there alone without a zair. There is no one to cry on his musibah, to cry out, Ya Hasan, to give pursa, to give condolences to his mother. He was poisoned in front of Zainab. Her Imam threw up pieces of his liver, and Zainab watched all along. She cried out, "O Hussein, we are losing our Imam. Ya Hussein, we are losing our brother. I hope the musibah ended here, but no brothers and sisters. That wasn't enough for the Ummah. They not only killed the grandson of the Prophet, but they didn't even allow him to be laid in peace. This is the first janazah that when it comes out of the house, there are arrows rained that pierce his blessed body. This is the first janazah that comes back home. Zainab sees her brother. She might have said, "Oh brother, the coffin I gave you was white. How come you have changed it to be red?" The body comes back. But at the end of the day, my heart still burns for Sayyid Sajjad. At least Imam Hasan was buried. Sayyid Sajjad was not able to bury his father, was not able to bury his loved one. It got to a point when Sayyid Sajjad came back Medina. He called out, complaining to the Prophet, "O Prophet, if you had told these people, if you had told this ummah of yours to fight us, to give us trouble, They couldn't have done anything more what they already did. You told them to have mawaddah. You told them to have love for us. But even if you had told them to fight us, they couldn't have done anything more. It was so difficult for Sayyid Sajjad, especially what happened in the courts of Ibn Ziyad and Yazid, that it is reported. Sayyid Sajjad says, he wishes and he says that, oh, I wish my eyes would have not seen Asham. I wished I would have never been to Syria. Why? What happened, Sayyid Sajjad? It might be a custom for us to be martyred, but it was never a custom. It was never a tradition for our women folk to be in courts and bazaar. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ.
محمد فأجل فرجهم. لبيك يا رسول الله. Please raise up for a few minutes of matam, inshallah, before Adhan. لبيك يا رسول الله، لبيك يا حبيب الله، لبيك لبيك يا حبيب الله، لبيك يا رسول الله، لبيك لبيك يا رسول الله، لبيك يا حبيب الله، لبيك يا رسول الله، لبيك. ماه شب تار قافل سالار، دل بر و دلدار یا رسول الله. ماه شب تار قافل سالار، دل بر و دلدار یا رسول الله. روح مناجات آینه ذات، پیک سماوات یا رسول الله. دل به تبسم هایت دادم تا به تو دل دادم آزادم شد. همه جان آمد فریادم یار مولانا یا رسول الله. سیدنا یا رسول الله، مولانا یا رسول الله. سیدنا یا رسول الله، مولانا یا رسول الله. سیدنا مولانا یا رسول الله، سیدنا یا رسول الله، مولانا یا رسول الله. لبیک یا نبی الله، لبیک یا حبیب الله، لبیک یا نبی الله، لبیک یا حبیب الله، لبیک یا نبی الله، لبیک یا حبیب الله، لبیک یا نبی الله، لبیک. سوره طه سید بدها، هستی زهرا یا رسول الله. سوره طه سید بدها، هستی زهرا یا رسول الله. رحمت رحمان بارش باران، معنی قرآن یا رسول الله. تا شده مهرت سایه سارم در ره عشقت ره سپارم من، ز تو دارم هرچه دارم یار. مولانا یا رسول الله، سیدنا یا رسول الله. مولانا سیدنا یا رسول الله. مولانا سیدنا یا رسول الله. مولانا یا رسول الله. سیدنا لا لبیک یا رسول الله، لبیک یا حبیب الله، لبیک یا رسول الله، لبیک لبیک یا رسول الله، لبیک. شمس و ضحایی صبح صفایی، مشعل داره راه خدایی. شمس و ضحایی صبح صفایی، مشعل داره راه خدایی. مست نسیمه موی تو هم من، صفه نشینه کوی تو هم من. مست نسیمه موی تو هم من، صفه نشینه کوی تو هم من. ای سحر شام تار ظلمت، ای پدر پرمهر این امت، کن نظری بر حال عشاقت. مولانا یا رسول الله، سیدنا. مولانا یا رسول الله، سیدنا یا رسول الله. مولانا سیدنا یا رسول الله. مولانا یا رسول الله. سیدنا مولانا یا رسول الله. سیدنا لا یا حیدر 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 یا زهرا 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 زهرا یا 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 حسن 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 ابا عبدالله 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 أبا عبد الله أبا عبد الله أبا عبد الله الله يا زينب 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 يا عباس 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 يا حجة ابن الحسن عجل على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن عجل على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن عجل على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن يا حجة ابن الحسن أجل على ظهورك صلى الله عليك يا مظلوم يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار فلا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين بالحسين يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مغلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك واكفنا يا قاضي الحاجات ويا كافي المهمات إنك مجيب الدعوات إنك على كل شيء قدير رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات سبحان الله لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. محمد وآل محمد. أشهد أن عليًا ولي الله. صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. أشهد أن عليًا وأبناءه المعصومين حجج الله.